Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Waterloo Council meeting, Monday, November 14th, 2022, 2 p.m. We will begin this meeting with a territorial acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather on today is land traditionally cared for by the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We also acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today. And since this is really a reflection of our council term, I think I'm pretty proud of how far we've come and how far we have yet to go, and pretty pleased to be passing it on to the next term of council, four of which are here today, to take it a lot further. So thank you. A moment of reflection. At the beginning of this council meeting, we pause to think about the needs of our community. May we show wisdom and compassion in all our decisions. Could I have disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof from anyone? Seeing no hands, we move into item number 4, approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, I saw Councillor Veith's hand go up, probably to move the motion, seconded by Councillor Bonagor. All those in favor? That is all of us. Thank you very much. Moving along to item 5, the consent motion, of which we have the CEO procurement award summary, June to October. Does anyone have any questions on that? Would like to pull it? Seeing not, I'll look for somebody who would care to move that. Moved by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Bodley. All those in favor? That's 8. 8 for 8. Moving on to item 7A, staff reports, the 2018 to 2022 Sustainability and Climate Change Progress Update. A report prepared for us by Anna Ristic, and Anna is going to give us a presentation, I see. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you, Mayor. Oh, that's loud. Well, hello, everyone. Today I will be presenting the 2018 to 2022 Sustainability and Climate Change Progress Update, which is in essence a summary of all the good work that's being done in this space in the last 4 years. I'm going to start by giving just a little bit of a brief context of the scope of this work and the scope of this update before spending the bulk of my presentation discussing all of the fantastic progress that's been done in this space. And then I'm going to really briefly touch on how that progress and all that great foundational work is going to be used to launch forward to our next steps. So starting off on a little bit of context, and I'm going to discuss this a little bit more in depth in the next slide, but I just wanted to go over a couple key terms with you, just because this tends to be, climate change in a municipal space is a relatively new space as compared to some of the other divisions. Oh, I don't have my little graphic. That's a shame. Well, we'll just pretend. So in terms of climate change, the first consideration in a municipal space is that top graphic, which is adaptation. Adaptation in this context is when we change our behaviors, our buildings, our policies, anything that we control to adjust to future conditions. So that can be adapting to reduce risk. So for example, we might oversize storm sewers to deal with increased precipitation, but can also be adapting to take advantage of opportunities. And a good example is this year we had a really long shoulder season. So weekend before last weekend, I was out in shorts in November, right? So even just being able to have events a little bit longer and taking advantage of some of those opportunities. The flip side is that bottom triangle, which is mitigation. And this is reducing the amount of greenhouse gases that are in our atmosphere, either through reducing the amount that we emit or by increasing the amount that we sequester. So through, for example, carbon capture technologies or natural infrastructure. Now, because we're in a municipality, we're in a pretty unique space where we have to consider both the corporate side of climate change as well as the community side. So in the corporate lens, that's everything we directly own and directly influence. That's our fleet, that's our buildings. I don't want to say we own our staff, but that's our staff actions to an extent. And then the community is everything that we influence but don't directly own. So the way we influence transportation or housing or anything through policies and grants and procedures going forward. So a couple quick examples, and I swear I had such a cool little animation of this. On the corporate adaptation side, it can really be something as easy as just staff instruction and staff learning on how to incorporate climate change resilience and mitigation into their work, for example. On the community adaptation side, a great example is the proposed project in the square of having shade, for example, or if we have water accessible to people in the event of a heat wave, things like that. On the community mitigation, near and dear to my heart is having really great active transport infrastructure to encourage people to bike and use less cars to emit. And on the corporate mitigation end is having the way we're hybridizing and electrifying our vehicles. And Mayor Dave, you're in that picture. We were trying to figure it out. And while I have this all separate in all these 4 quadrants, the reality is this is all really intertangled and they all work together. So a project that's focused on community mitigation, for example, might have some really great impacts on community adaptation or corporate mitigation, and they all work together in that space. So moving on to progress, and I'll be discussing each of these big 6 points in a little bit, I just wanted to mention 2 quick things before I jump in. The first is that the city has a pretty long-standing history of environmental work and environmental policy and environmental stewardship going forward, but that in the last 4 years, this council in particular has really worked on that to push forward and accelerate the climate change and sustainability work being done. And you'll be able to see that as I discuss a little bit further. And the second point is that while I'm the one who gets to present today, or was told to present today, more likely, the reality is this work is being done across the corporation in various capacities, and we'll hear FDMS talk shortly after, planning, engineering, transportation, even members of our residents who come over and give us advice and tell us what they want. Everyone's been part of the solution going forward. The first big achievement I wanted to discuss was the Transform Waterloo plan. So this is a regional community mitigation plan that was endorsed by Council in May of 2021, and we have set targets of 80% greenhouse gas community emissions reductions by 2050. So out of all of the goals and actions in this plan, which is quite large, 31 of those are City of Waterloo actions. And I really want to stress that this is an amazing region-wide collaboration. So we are working with all the area municipalities, the townships, the regions together. We meet quite frequently to discuss this. And this is currently in project planning, budget, prioritization, and implementation phases. And as this plan is going to 2050, I joke that status is never going to change because we'll constantly be adding new projects as things evolve going forward. The second big point is the declaration of the climate emergency. So Council formally adopted a corporate GHG reduction target of a minimum of 50% reduction by 2030 and 80% reduction by 2050 below 2011 levels. And this not only set the intent for the city and our staff, but also really showed the community, other communities in the world that we decide that we're going to take this seriously and that our actions going forward should reflect this. Third is the inclusion of sustainability in the 2019 to 2022 strategic plan. So it's mentioned quite a few times. The first is sustainability as a guiding principle. So in this case, that's sort of triple bottom line sustainability, but environment is one of those sections. The second is the strategic pillar of sustainability and the environment. And the third is the goal of enabling bold action to address the climate change crisis. So once again, showing that the city has embedded sustainability and climate change considerations into our work going forward and into our strategies going forward. Fourth is the creation of our corporate climate change adaptation plan. So it was approved in council in 2019, and as the name suggests, this is our corporate adaptation plan, so adapting our buildings, our people, our fleet to the effects of climate change. And there are 27 different actions and 8 high-level goals. We are currently project planning, budgeting, and really important prioritizing these goals to see how we're going to move forward in the next couple of years. Number 5 is the creation of a corporate climate action plan. So this is the sister to our corporate climate change adaptation plan, and this is how we're going to mitigate the actions of the city. The terms of reference was approved during this term of council in October 2020, and it is intended to be complete. It will be completed by the end of 2023. It is currently underway. We are researching and backgrounding and starting the implementation of this plan. And in particular, I'm really excited that this plan is going to involve quite a bit of engagement with the various divisions and members of the city. So it truly is holistic in nature. Number 6, lastly on the progress but not least, is the staffing updates. So first is this creation of the environmental sustainability team. So that is a team that sort of acts as an internal committee that is made up of representatives of various divisions across the city. And it is designed primarily to work on core cap, but also as a way to reduce those silos and really increase that collaboration, because sustainability, in both an exciting way and in a bit of a difficult way, impacts everyone in different ways, and everyone can contribute something differently, and they see different problems, and they can see how it affects their particular division So it's not being done without anyone's input, without anyone's knowledge or information. And secondly is you hired the creation and the hiring of a senior sustainability officer for the city, which I think was a fantastic position because it's mine. So thank you for that. So this is the role that oversees all of this work within the corporation city, but also for the community as well. It now sits in the office of the CAO, so that really gives it an opportunity to be in a spot where it can equally engage with all of the different divisions and make sure that this work is not siloed and make sure this work is being seen all throughout the corporation. And a new change of when this role was created, it also added adaptation. So this role really does look holistically at adaptation and mitigation throughout the corporation and throughout the community. Moving on to next steps. The first thing is we will be completing core cap at the end of 2023. I said we might be, but we will be, and I could see my manager flinching at that. We will be completing core cap at the end of 2023, and we are working on the implementation of the Transform Waterloo Region and Corporate Climate Change Adaptation Plan. So between the two of them right now, there's 68 different actions, so quite a bit of work to be working on that. We are also creating a sustainability and climate change baseline. So because as with a lot of municipalities, this role is new and the work has been done in different divisions, we're trying to bring everything together, both so we can reflect and celebrate the past work, see where we are in the present, and push forward and plan in an informed way. And building off of that, we are also creating a sustainability and climate change update reporting framework, so that hopefully annually we can see all the great work that's been done and pivot if we need to and see which direction we're heading in. And then lastly is planning for the inclusion of equity considerations in all climate work. And I really do want to stress this one out. Several studies have shown that climate change adversely and disproportionately impacts the most vulnerable members of our community, both because the effects of climate change tend to impact those who are most vulnerable, but also because very well-intentioned actions, if not done with the collaboration and consultation of those groups, can unintentionally result in harm. And then harm that's disproportionately felt by vulnerable communities going forward. So we are working with our DEI team to make sure that any and all of our actions going forward in the sustainability and climate change space are reflective of the diversity and values that form up our community. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent timing, and thank you very much, Anna. First up, I'll note to Council that we do have a delegation, but we're going to take questions of staff first. So please go ahead, Councillor Henry, Councillor Bonagor.
Welcome into Chambers. I know it's you've been here for a while, but none of us have been here for a while. So I wanted to say welcome in person, and good luck with the new crew. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. The one question I sort of had, as you mentioned, core cap and a focus on getting that done for the end of 2023. Can you speak to, and maybe Felipe could help you on this as well, about how core cap is being connected into the next 3-year budgeting cycle? Because it sounds like the timing is either not quite working and therefore needs some upfront thought, or this is already connected and plugged in. Because I can imagine that the next council will want to make sure that in the substantive budget round, they'll be able to connect the internal actions of core cap and the budgeting process for the balance of their term.
Absolutely. I believe I'm supposed to say through the mayor to the councillor. Is that correct? Thank you. For the mayor to the council, and I'm going to start this, and then I'm gonna, if you don't mind, let Sandy and Philippa also take the lead a little bit on this. That's a great point because of the timing of various things. I don't think I have to mention the last couple of years to anyone. It has been pushed a little bit. So one way we're counteracting this is, first of all, we have a couple actions that we know are going to be actions regardless. They just haven't been put into writing. And then the second thing is having a reserve fund, which I am going to let the financial people talk about before I say something I'm not supposed to. With that, Sandy, do you want to actually take that over?
Sure. Thanks, Anna. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Henry. It's a really good question, and it's something that we did struggle with in terms of the timing. As Anna noted, the terms of reference for the Corporate Climate Action Plan was approved by this council in 2020. We ran into I will call them unexpected delays just in terms of staffing and resourcing. So we certainly tried to move forward and working with the environmental sustainability team to try and keep the work moving forward. But having Anna here, we've been able to really focus in on how we want to proceed. And so you raise a good point in terms of budget, and it's something that we are cognizant of. As Anna noted, there are some actions that we're already doing that will be included as part of the Corporate Climate Action Plan. So rest assured, both working as part of the one-year budget and the three-year budget cycle, we will be able to consider some of those actions, but there will be actions in terms of timing that don't quite line up. The importance of having the environmental sustainability team and being able to streamline communications with all divisions has really helped us to kind of pinpoint as well other divisions that are also doing the work. So it's not just going to be solely up to Anna and myself in the CAO's office, but we're working with Sunda and his team and facilities, as well as others that are doing the sustainability work. So we recognize that it's a bit of it's in a unique situation that we're not going to have it fully embedded as part of the three-year budget. But as Anna is doing the work now, things are already popping up. So we're going to be working closely with Philippa and Brad and their team to try and identify those as part of the three-year budget process. So I think we're cognizant of it as well. Anna will also be doing an update to CORCAP, because the other thing we're running into as well is the ECDM plan. And so the ECDM plan is due for a renewal, and hopefully I'm not stealing Sunda's thunder there, but it's due for a renewal in 2024, and we're required to do that. So we'll be looking at potentially doing an update to CORCAP. So again, it's a matter of trying to consider the overall big picture, but understanding that things still need to move forward. So the more that we can streamline those communications across all divisions within the city, the better position we'll be as part of the three-year budget and being able to consider certain things. And hopefully we can rely on our finance staff to be a little bit creative when it comes to certain solutions as well. So it won't be a perfect timing alignment, but we're doing our best and doing what we can to try and align that timing. But I'll leave it maybe with Philippa to add anything else.
Thank you, Sandy, and through you, Mayor Jaworski. It might be the last time I say that, so I'm going to use that opportunity through to Councillor Henry. So just to really, they've said it so well, and I think one of the benefits too is that Sandy has been part of the budget committee on the one-year budget and will also be involved in the three-year budget very closely as well, and I think that's going to be very helpful. And as Councillor Henry, you know, we've committed to bringing back reserve policy with regard to the green program within CRF, and that's going to happen for Council's consideration on December 12th as part of the Reserve and Reserve Fund policy annual update. And so there will be, as Sandy said, some stepping stones along the way from a financial perspective to support the work. And so I think the real key is what over the next couple of years will the budget and the financial processes need to do in order to support the work. And as Anna and Sandy noted, with some of those things having lagged a little bit, but starting to gain a lot of traction, I think we're going to see the financial processes also gain some traction there as well over the one-year budget and the three-year budget.
Thank you, that's helpful. And I'll leave you with sort of a thought around that as well. It sounds like from the environmental sustainability team, which is sort of cross-functional across the organization, and the process that you're going to undertake, or continue to undertake through CORCAP of engaging divisions across the organization, that subject to the next council strategic planning priorities, that business plans that emerge from those divisions and departments ought to reflect that as one of the main priorities that the new council will be able to see. And so even if it doesn't necessarily reflect immediately in budget, sometimes that's use of existing operating and capital to achieve certain things that we see through business planning. But it sounds like you should be able to see a lot of alignment just because by doing what you're doing the way you're doing it, everybody ought to be already thinking about it, and council will be able to see that in the documents that they get from those divisions. So I'll leave you with that, and thank you and welcome again, Anna.
Thank you, and over to Councillor Bonagor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Jaworski. Thanks for getting the financial questions out of the way. That is excellent. And all that's left is to say, Anna, is thank you so much for bringing this to us. I emailed you on the weekend because the report made me cry. It literally brought tears to my eyes to see how concrete things are now. And I just feel so heartened that we as a city have reached this point because now we can really start to gain traction and the clock is ticking. We know that. And I just want to thank you for all of the work that everyone across the city has been doing because we put a big ask in front of all of you and everyone has kind of put their full force of effort behind it. And I just want you all to know how deeply appreciated it is, not just at this horseshoe, but across the whole city. So thank you, keep it up. And that goes to the incoming councillors as well.
Speaking of incoming council and reports that make you cry, I've already warned them about that fees one that we get that's like 150 pages every year. It's like, don't let it make you cry, man. It's something we do all the time. I don't see any further questions, Anna. So with that, I'll bid you adieu, and we'll call up Greg Mikolenko, Treasurer of the Grand River Environmental Network, for 5 minutes of commentary on sustainability. Please go ahead, Greg.
Grand River Environmental Network has existed for about 20 years, and we've, on many happy and fulfilling occasions, had opportunity to work with the City of Waterloo, to attend council, visit with staff, and consult with the mayor and the councillors. I think what we just heard is a fine example of something that would be unheard of 20 years ago, that indicates the smooth linking together of municipal politicians and of the staff that work with them to affect many things. I mostly just want to say thank you and give a big hug to those who are councillors who are leaving now, as well as to the mayor. You've, on environmental and sustainability questions, you've shown great professionalism, enormous competence and good judgment, and also a pretty good understanding of ecology and how the environment functions. I'd like to mention briefly one very recent action that we were involved in. About 6 years ago, two of our members, Deb Swidorovich and Kevin Thomason, both from the City of Waterloo, brought concerns about the I forget the name of it, a development right by Herbsville, Cartway, and Northgate it's called.
Oh, we know which one you're talking about. Please.
Yep. And it was captured by an Ontario Municipal Board process. I got positioned as a participant, which meant that I could submit a written report at the start of it and also listen into it. So for 22 days, I would click on and see what was going on. And my God, I felt I would rather be hostage in some horrible prison camp than to have to be enduring that, or go swimming in a tank full of starving crocodiles. You really did a wonderful job, staff. I could see how much you had to put into it, preparing reports, coordinating efforts, sitting and listening, enduring cross-examination. I was cross-examined once as a witness in a court case, and it was like having wolves sawing away at my brain. So anyways, a great big thank you to all the good things you've done and how you've worked with our organization and others. And being of Ukrainian background, and your mayor is also, and actually I discovered the last time I met him that our grandparents farmed about 5 or 10 miles from each other in Saskatchewan. So amongst Ukrainians, on an occasion like this, when you're saying goodbye or wishing somebody the best in retirement, there's a special song you sing. So I'll sing a couple of lines and then I'll translate. Nam nocha lita lita, nam nocha yalita, Nam no halita lita, nam no halita. And what that means is we wish you many, many years of good health and prosperity, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thank you for the entertainment. We're getting together for beers at 4 in case you're interested. So, sounds like that song would go better with beer too. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words on behalf of the staff and certainly the council and the sustainability team of the City of Waterloo. So thank you, Greg. With that, I think we need a motion to accept as information, moved by Councillor Bonagor, seconded by Councillor Hanmer. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7B, another presentation, Facility Design and Management Services, Accomplishments and Look Ahead, prepared by Kevin Van Oudegem, and presented, joining will be Scott Prevost, I think, or maybe not. Welcome, Kevin.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here today, and with me is Sunda Siva, the Director in Facilities, and unfortunately Scott's not here today, but I'll do the presenting on behalf of all of us. So yeah, really wonderful to be here today, really just to reflect back over this council's term and some of the work that you've enabled the Facilities Design and Management Services team to accomplish. So a little bit of a reflection on that, and then also, you know, going forward for the new council, you know, where are we looking to take things in facilities? So over the last 4 years, really a couple of key themes emerged for me when I reflected on this. And I think, you know, the first obvious one to me is it's been a very intensive few years in terms of the capital construction that we've done at city facilities. And obviously with the rec center it's a $32 million project, and the East Side Library at $10.4 million. Those are massive projects for the city and for this team in particular. It's a very small team, and that's a huge volume of work. And what sometimes gets lost in that is there's a number of other projects that were advanced as well over this council term that, you know, I'll call it a regular council term, would have been marquee projects. One of them is the Rim Ball Diamond Pavilion project, which was a really wonderful addition for the soccer fields and the ball diamonds over there, and provided, you know, single occupant, gender neutral washroom facilities at that site. We also have the new Button Factory elevator that's coming online here shortly. So that's, I know, a really exciting project as well, and a long time in the making, but if you've driven by there recently, it's a really nice fit. I think architecturally it fits in really nice with that heritage building. So, and many other projects that sort of go unnoticed, but have been ongoing over the course of this very intense capital construction program. The other big one, obviously, the development of a new green building policy, which we just heard a presentation on. You know, obviously this council's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions with the 50% reduction target by 2030 and the 80% by 2050. So one of the things we did is we sort of came back and looked at our green building policy for city buildings and really focused in on that. And you know, this council really enabled that policy to move forward. So some challenges and successes. Obviously, with over $45 million worth of construction projects being done in the last few years, just to put that into context, like the annual amount that facilities would do, maybe $4 to $5 million per year. So to layer on another $45 million on top of that is a significant amount of work that happened in addition to that day-to-day work, as I talk about. So I just want to recognize all the you know, everybody that's been involved in that. In particular, the team here in facilities that works behind the scenes to deliver that kind of work. So really well done by everybody, I would say. And then obviously with the pandemic, I mean, that was something nobody foresaw, but definitely had an impact on these projects. The rec center, for example, was awarded, I remember it was the first week or two when the world was shutting down, we were signing contracts and we were digging holes. And I mean, that's, looking back now, I mean, we didn't know if we'd be even able to continue construction at that point in time. And here we are, you know, a couple of years later, and we've delivered the project. So, and then same with the library, a few months after that, we put shovels in the ground in the fall of that year. So unprecedented cost escalation, as everybody knows about, supply chain disruptions, work stoppages, you know, and real health and safety challenges. Again, in those first few weeks, staff and contractors continue to go to site and work through these projects. And so that's, I think, really commendable that they were able to do that and deliver these projects for the community in a really uncertain time. So not to dwell too much, but on the rec center, I think a huge accomplishment. It's been delivered on time and on budget. Obviously, we continue to work through the last little bits. With a project like that, it sort of ends in a whimper. There's lots of things that happen in a $30 million project, and we continue to sort of tie up some of the loose ends. But generally, it's done, and it's on budget, which is fantastic. For me, one of the things I look at, it was already a really great facility, but the work that this council enabled really took it to another level. It's a truly multi-generational facility, and really one that's enhanced its accessibility and its inclusiveness. And I see that every day when I go there. Just, you see the older adults, you see the kids, you see everybody, and it's just such a wonderful facility. Always was, and I think even more so now. Another thing that I haven't spent a lot of time talking about, but I think is a really key objective, which ties in with some of the themes here today. When I remember thinking back to when we started the design on this project, our green building policy talked about creating LEED silver buildings. That's where we started. And a LEED silver building is basically a code building nowadays. That's how far the industry has moved. Through the design phase, I remember coming to council and with a green building policy at that time, and we sort of agreed, okay, well, let's ratchet things up. And so we took it to the 25% better than code in terms of energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. And that was really the benchmark for this project. And that's how the project was funded. But here today, I can say we've had it independently verified through energy modeling. The community pavilion, for example, is predicted to be 47% better than code. So nearly double the target that we set out to achieve, really within our same financial means. So I think that's a huge win, and one that will pay off for the citizens of Waterloo for years to come. Moving on to the library, I mean, this project to me is just a beautiful architectural building first and foremost. Everybody that goes through this building, I think, is really struck by the quality of the space and the finish. And I think we're really proud of what's been accomplished at that site. Again, on time and on budget, which is a huge accomplishment for a project like that as well. And I think what this project to me demonstrated was, partnership. We've always had a great partnership with the library, but I think that's been further advanced through this project. With our friends at the Waterloo Public Library, we put a lot of effort up front into the design of this building. And for me, to see that we've won the Ontario Libraries Association's New Building Award for Libraries is fantastic. And I remember Laura Dick from the WPL told me when we won this, she goes, Kevin, that's a huge accomplishment in our world. That is the award you want if you're building a library in Ontario. This is an award they give out every 3 years that recognizes excellence in architectural design of libraries and in planning of libraries. So again, I think we knew we had a great building, and this just further sort of endorses for me that this is a really wonderful new asset for the community. And again, in terms of energy, this isn't just a beautiful building, it's an energy efficient building. So similar to the rec center, this building is actually 40% more efficient than code. So again, significantly surpassing the 25% target. So that's the stuff I know I've been here talking a lot about over the last several years, but another big theme for me is inclusiveness and welcoming facilities, which has really been a theme of this council for me as well. We created a number of new universal washrooms, which we didn't have before, and we continue to create more of those spaces going forward. Many barrier-free and single-occupant washrooms. For example, you see in the bottom of the slide here, the new Rim Ball Diamond Pavilion project, which is an example of that. The aquatic change room at the rec center, obviously, if you've been in that space, that's a transformation of that, what used to be the old family change room. And even other things like tactile wayfinding. So you can see in the photo here what I'm talking about, but this is something that's not required by code, it's not in any policy, but staff through their engagement with the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee, this is something we could easily do just by picking different types of floor tiles. And, I'm really happy to see how it's turned out. It helps somebody with visual impairments navigate the building just that little bit more independently. And this is something I think is gaining traction, and hopefully we can, do at lots of our other facilities and maybe regionally as well. Creating new elevators like I talked about. And one of the new things here at City Hall is we've just completed the new smudging room as well, which is a unique space as well that's new to the city. On the sustainability front, Scott Prevost, who can't be here today, obviously was instrumental in the creation of the latest green building policy, which again further ratchets up the requirements. So now we're talking about things like zero carbon ready buildings, and I'm sure we'll continue to move even beyond that in the years to come. But for me, council endorsing this position to hire a full-time energy program manager is a great move. It's going to be paying off for the long run. And I think one of the things that I've already noticed with this position, aside from the day-to-day work that individual does, through our partnerships with finance here at the City of Waterloo, we've already gotten $2.5 million worth of grants in energy and greenhouse gas work. And that's due to the energy program manager and our finance colleagues working together, putting strong applications in place. And I think, if we're going to have a chance of achieving our targets as a city, that these grants are going to be part of the equation. And I think to already see that happening is really exciting for me. And then lastly here, this council in the latest budget created the new Green Building Policy Implementation Funding, which allows us to get moving today on some projects. And one of those things you see like in the photos here are the solar panels at the rec center. That's something we were able to do with that funding. And that is going to have an annual payback of about $12,000 per year. So just projects like that, having that funding available to us, we can actually start moving forward on some of this work. So that's a lot about what we've done. And just a quick look at where we're going. I think for us over the last months, this topic of transformational change in facilities is really starting to emerge. And what we mean by that is really getting away from sort of incremental replacements to more fundamental changing over of building systems. And a good example of that would be a building like Rim Park that might have 20 gas-fired rooftop units. Historically, what happens is you just replace one after the others, they fail, and what you're doing is basically endorsing sort of a status quo. But what we're starting to look at now is how do we replace all of those units at once and change them from natural gas burning to electric or air source heat pumps. And what that allows us to do is look at other technologies like geothermal. And so it's really about fundamentally changing how energy is consumed in one of these buildings and getting away from just the like-for-like replacement. So that's a major theme that we'll be bringing forward to the next council. And it really aligns with the 4 key pillars here. Obviously, greenhouse gas emissions, reducing the infrastructure deficit. So as we're replacing those units, if we replace them all at once, we can also replace that leaky roof in an economical fashion. So it's looking at finding ways to do things more efficiently. The third one, increasing programming opportunities. So obviously, it's not just about energy and greenhouse gas. It's about service delivery for the public. And that's something that we're looking at as well with our colleagues here. It's about if a facility is going to be down because we're changing over systems, well, that's the perfect time to do that renovation and create that pickleball corridor or tweak something in one of these older rec facilities to better align with what the community is looking for. And then obviously, and importantly, the fourth one, inclusive facilities. And as I say, this is a theme that we've begun to work on, and I see a lot of really good work and connections and partnerships happening about how do we truly create inclusive facilities for all members of the city, of society, and making sure that they all can share equally in the services at those facilities. So that's going to be a big theme for us as well. And so all of those 4 things come together around this idea of transformational change. And that's really it for today. So I just wanted to provide that reflection and a bit of a look forward and take an opportunity right now just to thank this council for your support and your leadership and your vision. And we get to do the fun stuff sometimes and create these projects and be in the field and see them come to life, but you really do the hard work and enable these projects to happen. And so I just want to thank you very much for that partnership, and obviously I've enjoyed working with all of you, and for those that are coming back, I look forward to continuing this work and looking at this theme of transformational change going forward. So I will stop there, and thanks very much for the opportunity today.
Super. Thank you very much, Kevin. I'll just look around and see if there's any questions or commentary from council. Councillor Bondigar looks like a hand going up there. Please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Jaworski. I just thank you to everyone on the team. You have done a mammoth amount of work. I'm trying to see Sunda through there. You all deserve a bit of a break. I hope you have a nice break over the holidays coming up. But this is phenomenal, and it's just so exciting to see it and to see it in action, and to know that you're being able to like jump ahead of the curve on some of these projects. It's fantastic. Please keep going. We need it. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, this is a lot for the community to enjoy and a lot for future retirees to enjoy here. And so just something I'll be looking forward to, checking these out firsthand. So I look forward to that. I don't see any further questions, but a lot of thank you to you, Sunda, your team, and all the people who made all these happen, thanks to the investments from the citizens of Waterloo. So thank you, Kevin. Next up, item C, Generation Park, Waterloo, West Side Employment Lands, Sustainability Standards, presentation from Kristen Sainsbury. Oh, what I miss?
Happy to make the motion to receive the report.
Okay, moved by Councillor Hanmer, second by Councillor Henry. All those in favor of that motion, thank you. I'm getting out of control. Yeah, too excited about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock whenever we're getting there. Moving along, welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm really thrilled to be here today. Again, to report on vision that's been put forward to staff by Council. I'm here with Justin McFadden and our consultant from Stantec, Paulina Tchaikovsky. So just a real quick, Generation Park, Waterloo. We're very excited. We're moving forward with this project and we're seeing all the pieces coming together. Located on the far west side of Waterloo along Herb Street, bounded by Columbia to the north. It's approximately 45 hectares in total with about 36 hectares which are developable. So just a little bit of an overview and background where we've been on this project. So over the past 5+ years, staff have been doing a lot of work around the planning to make sure the framework was laid for this. Plan of subdivision, official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments for the site, including all of the background, environmental, and other studies required as part of those processes. The property has been planned to provide employment opportunities for office, industrial, and light industrial. The infrastructure and main roads are being constructed, and in 2021, Platinum Drive was open to the public, connecting Herb Street to Columbia. And in 2021, Council approved urban design guidelines for the park with a lot of specific requirements for the look, the feel, and natural environment, both for public and private realm within that development. And at that time, Council specified that they'd like staff to go back and consider how we could also consider sustainable building design as part of moving forward within our agreements of purchase and sale. And so we're here reporting on the outcome of that. Over the past year or so, we've been working on developing sustainability standards for the park. We took Council's recommendation. We considered best approaches as well as how to move the needle on Council's carbon reduction targets, which the other two groups have spoken to. We also knew we needed to provide clarity around the expectations for future purchasers so they would know what they're getting into when they're buying in the park. We wanted to expand and build upon the urban design guidelines, which have many areas that speak to various environmental aspects of the park. Balance sustainability goals with the unique challenges that are posed by it being an industrial park. So many of the much of the background work we've done, we've seen a lot of applications in the office or the residential or combined office residential space, and industrial brings with it unique considerations. We wanted to focus on sustainable building design and key site requirements within areas that we as a municipality can control either as the owner or as the approval authorities. And also utilize existing standards and certifications, looking at how staff expertise and our capacity in-house to implement and administer these could be taken into account. So we retained Stantec as our lead consultant on this project, and Pauline has been working with us over the past year, undertaking background research. Like I mentioned, we are looking into other standards that might exist, like the Toronto or Whitby Green Standard. Through this whole process as well, we've had a lot of consultation input, spoke to experts in a number of fields, staff from various divisions from all areas within IPPW, legal, finance, CAO's office, other city staff within facilities that are working on our green buildings to learn as much as we could and take that into account in developing the version you have before you. And in addition to staff, we reached out early in the process to Sustainable Waterloo Region. We consulted with Sustainability Advisory Committee, Waterloo Community Energy, and they provided input and comments that we've taken into account in the version that you see today. We also, when we got toward the end of the process, we went through a peer review and a costing analysis, which I'll talk to shortly. And we also consulted and sent a final draft to WEDAC, who provided support motion, which you'll see in your council package. So without going through all of the guiding principles, we did set out 9 guiding principles for the guidelines that touch on things from carbon reduction, heating, cooling, and water efficiency within buildings, overall energy efficiency, conserving water, making the buildings more resilient, reducing heat island effects, and looking at environmental impact of materials and construction, as well as how do we encourage alternative means of transportation. The standards, as I mentioned, build on the urban design guidelines, and so areas where that's well addressed, we didn't address with these. We've developed 2 tiers. 1 is required, tier 1, and tier 2 is optional. Basically, in a nutshell, to summarize the foundational aspects of the guidelines where we've landed is we will require LEED Silver with specific point requirements. So of the 50 points that someone undergoing LEED needs to retain to get a silver designation, we're requiring 17 have to be specific to certain areas. And also layered over top of that is requiring the Canada Green Building Council Zero Carbon Building Standard Design Certification. And both of these programs are administered by the same organization within Canada. And for Council's background, the Zero Carbon Building Standard is a Canadian certification that centers on carbon specifically and aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from building materials and operations. We built in other city-specific requirements, things like EV, bicycle and car charging, priority carpooling, heat island reduction objectives, and green lease. And implementation is anticipated through a range of tools, including our agreement of purchase and sale. So, as I noted, we went out for a peer review, had a peer firm undertake a costing assessment and look at the guidelines and provide input back, which are reflected in the final guidelines or standards you have before you. Some really interesting information came back from that work. On average, we modeled 55,000 square foot industrial building comprised 65% of manufacturing, 25% warehousing, and 10% office, anticipating this is the type of building we're going to see happening in the park. And when they energy modeled that, we saw that it'll achieve approximately 73% reduction in carbon emissions over a standard building built to the current building code. So we feel confident we're hitting the targets and helping council meet its objectives. It's also anticipated that there will be a cost premium, no surprise to council, I'm sure. That cost premium is expected to be about 6% capital cost premium to build the building to the standards we've set out, with approximately $250,000 to $350,000 as costing to obtain the actual certifications and demonstrate compliance. And that includes everything from developing their transition plans, their energy modeling, the building commissioning, the consultants and experts that are going to help them do that work, as well as the actual cost of certification. And the conclusion of our background work on that is that although there are upfront costs and additional premiums, based on the framework we see in Canada today with anticipated carbon tax, these buildings should pay a return on investment over the lifetime of the building. And so we've got a couple of recommendations there before council, that they approve the staff report and the sustainability standards for use in guiding future development and built form within the designated lands, and that you direct staff to amend the delegation bylaw to authorize the director of planning or a designate to determine compliance with the development standards and issue clearances there too, as well as to make any minor amendments we may need as we start working with these guidelines and we need to make to administer them. And so thank you, and I'll turn it over for any questions.
Super duper. Thank you very much. First up the gate is Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Kristen and the broader team so much for the vast amount of work and consultation and engagement with expertise to be able to act on council's direction here. And I think as you've highlighted, the ROI here is positive for organizations that locate in the best, most sustainable, greenest, forwardest looking industrial park that will exist in the country, perhaps the only one in the country that has these kinds of standards starting right here in Waterloo. So thank you for all of the work that's gone into this. The one question I wanted to ask you about, and we talked about this over the week, but I think it would be helpful for council to hear. Traditionally, we would have been able to rely more substantially on site plan control authority under Section 41 to enable some of these pieces. But we have a number of tools because we are the landowner in this case. So with Doug Ford looking to take a hatchet job to our ability to require green development standards on lands that we don't own, I was wondering if you could share what we are still able to do because we own these lands and to give us confidence that these guidelines today are ones that will result in what we hope it will result in, that we can still require those things.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Henry. Yes, so we don't know what Bill 23 is going to look like, and we've seen the province make changes, from initial drops to when approvals happen or even after. But based on what we've seen, we have been speaking with our legal counsel, and because we are the landowner, it appears we will have tools to be able to administer all the plan as we have it still going forward. But rest assured, staff will continue to monitor that as we see any other changes come through. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate the assurance and certainly the direction in here around minor amendments to the team. If there's a little tweak that needs to be made to account for legislation that we're providing the authority so that you don't have to cycle back and explain all this to new people, we can just go and do the thing. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll go with Councillor Hanmer next, and then I'll go back to the ward councillor, unless there's any others before that.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Christine. Presentation was excellent. I really appreciate it. Councillor Henry started asking part of my question, but I'll just phrase it too. It struck me when you were talking about the return on investment. First of all, just looking at the costs for builders or for us to develop it. Is there a way, or do we have an estimation of what that return on investment might look like? And thinking of it more from a communication standpoint of potential people who are going into the park.
I mean, the return on investment could be impacted by things such as if they explore opportunities around alternative energies. Mm-hmm. So we're really based the return on investment on anticipating they're hooking up to hydro grid for heating. So, they will have the ability to impact that even further. And so one of the things staff are thinking about is how do we provide education and information for people also that are interested in the park? So we see it being a bit of a wraparound process. We haven't fully defined what that will look like. Everything from having staff within planning that are specifically knowledgeable, because there's a lot of extra tools and considerations with this that need to be applied, to economic development staff supporting any buyers with here's experts in this region that can help guide you through the process. So every building will be different, I think, is the answer to that question. So we can't really give them a dollar value, but we can help hopefully point them in the right direction to maximize their return on investment.
Great, thank you. And through that, you answered actually what I wanted to hear, that there is an opportunity for support for people to consider it, and even looking at what a range might be, because I fully recognize each building is going to be different depending on the purpose. But the more that we can share, by the way, this is what you could be looking at, it may get people interested in investing in the park. So thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. And over to Councillor Freeman. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Jaworski. Thank you for the presentation and for these report. One of the questions I had was whether or not we have tools available to us to assess whether or not they've met with a green standard without having them pay for certification. And one of the reasons is we've certainly talked about that around this table as it relates to the city buildings. If people actually invest the money that they're paying for a certifier into actually making the buildings more energy efficient, we get even a better outcome. So I'm just trying to get a sense of whether or not there's different tools that we could use. Because right now we're saying that they have to get a natural LEED designation or meet certification criteria. And so I just wanted to ask that question. It always seems like throwing good money at bad.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor. We did discuss that internally quite extensively, recognizing there are costs to that. One of the challenges we have being a smaller city without experts that are environmental engineers on staff that can review everything, and also limitations within, say, building code to being able to require things to go certain ways. We've looked at how can we, as city staff, feel confident that they've met the guidelines to the extent that we have. And the third-party certifications really were the best tool we had with the resources we have as staff to be able to feel very confident that they have met those certifications, relying heavily on expertise of those third-party certifiers to let us know and them to demonstrate that they've met that. I'm not sure if perhaps Paulina, I know our consultant, has also spoken, in many of our meetings about why, from an engineering consulting standpoint, we may want to also do that. So I may ask her to just build on my answer.
Thank you, Kristen, and through the mayor to the councillor. I think Kristen captured the answer that I was thinking of when I was sitting in that chair, and that is we are relying through the way the standard has been written right now on the CEGBC for doing that third-party review. And in one of Kristen's slides, she presented the cost of certification. It looked like $250,000 to $300,000, and I just want to make clear that that is not the fee that's going to the CEGBC for the LEED certification and the zero carbon building standard certification. The actual fees that they charge for doing that review are just a fraction of that. And you can think of it as outsourcing a team of experts to review these applications and the certifications rather than, bringing on a half FTE in the city planning team to be doing those reviews. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And over to Councillor Bodley. Please go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Jaworski. I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge that we have somebody from our economic development team delegating to council here on a sustainability issue, which is exciting because that was, I think, part of council's goal in the last 4 years was to work to embed sustainability thinking cross-functionally across the whole city. And because we know that sustainability cannot sort of just be a siloed piece of what's going on at the city, it needs to be embedded. And so I'm very heartened to hear some of the expertise that has been built in the economic development team on this topic. It's really, really great. And moreover, I just want to say, like, when I was out door knocking and campaigning in this past election, people would ask me to name, some of my accomplishments. And this was the first thing that I always talked about, these standards coming through. To know that we may be one of the only industrial parks in Ontario or in Canada that are requiring green development standards as part of the building is exciting to me. And it's a huge personal accomplishment for me, and I hope that staff feel the same way now that we've come through to the other side on this. We know that buildings are an enormous portion of our community greenhouse gas emissions, and we also know that every building that we build today that is not net zero ready or net zero is a building that's going to have to be major retrofitted in the not too distant future. So I just wanted to, I can't express enough how thankful I am for all of the work that staff have put into this and sort of taking council's vision on what we wanted to see for this industrial park to heart and to come to where we are today so expertly. I really appreciate it greatly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bodley. And as I reflect on our three presentations here and the City of Waterloo teams behind them, and they're not large teams that we have here, but they do great things. And I remember doing the consultation, I'm not sure if it was Paulina or who it was with, but I said this should be a fussy place where we're fussy about who moves in there, not distribution companies or anything like that. Let's be fussy and make sure that it's a very special place, much like our East Side Library is a very special place, our new Community Pavilion, special place, Waterloo Park, Silver Lake, special place. This will be a special place too, as long as we just hold strong on the the barriers to be able to buy in there. It's not for sale for anyone. It's a fussy place, this Generation Park. I'm happy with that. I leave a happy man. I don't see anything further. I'll look to the ward councillor. Consider moving it. Moved by Councillor Bodley, second by Councillor Henry. All those in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you, team. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Paulina. Moving along. Well, we've done so much this council term and had such great return on investment. Let's do some investing for the next council term with our 2023 interim tax levy. Ready to move it? Moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by somebody who's going to be here, Councillor Vasic. Although we all have to live with it. We all live here. Any questions? All those in favor? It's all of us. That carries. Moving forward along, consideration of notice of motion. Moving forward to notice motion. Although we don't have one, I do know that Councillor Bodley has something that to present to us. And if, we go around and look for somebody to waive notice of motion on Councillor Henry, Councillor Veith, all those in favor, waiving notice of motion. That carries. Please go ahead, Councillor Bodley.
Thank you, through Mayor Jaworski. The motion is on screen. It is with respect to Bill 23, which has been referenced previously in previous delegations here today, and really requesting if we could scroll down maybe to the therefores. Yes. Really requesting that the Government of Ontario defer passage of Bill 23 until such time that further evaluation and analysis by the incoming City of Waterloo Council can occur. And I appreciate the waiving of notice of motion here, and I'll just speak to it quickly. You know, I think it's highly unusual for us to introduce a so-called advocacy motion at our final council meeting, but unfortunately the provincial timing for the introduction of this bill leaves us no opportunity to comment before the passage of the bill, perhaps by design. And while I do have the utmost confidence in staff to highlight some of the concerns that are outlined in the motion that I've put forward here, in particular the significant concerns regarding fundamental environmental protection principles, things like the countryside line, things that are deeply held concerns that the Sustainability Advisory Committee of the City of Waterloo also has. I think it is prudent of us to also provide some comments here. So, you know, I've stated before, and we've talked about a lot of the sort of victories, so to speak, when it comes to environmental protections of this council. And I know that I've stated that when it comes to environmental advocacy, every victory is temporary and every defeat is permanent. And I think, as I said, that is why it's incumbent upon us to speak up on the concerns of this bill. And I know how proud this council is in our environmental accomplishments over the last 4 years. I'm also very aware that in just a few short minutes, this council will no longer exist, paving the way for a new council. Rather than one final act of advocacy from this council, or rather than being seen as speaking on behalf of a council that has not yet begun, I think in asking the province to defer the passage of Bill 23 until such time that new councils and mayors across the province have had the chance for meaningful review and comment, I'm really attempting to pass the baton to our incoming council in the hopes that they may have the chance to have their voices heard on this highly, highly consequential bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I would note that certainly SAC has had a discussion on it that you were participatory in, and local resident KLG, who we all know was very much communicating with us over the past 24 hours and has strong feelings as well associated with that. Does anybody wish to comment further, or would you like to second it and get on the table? And Councillor Henry, you can second it? Okay. And Councillor Vasic, please go ahead.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that in addition to people who would normally be advocating for things like this, I've heard from people in my ward who wouldn't normally reach out but are really gravely concerned about this as well. So there's broad public interest in having a community, having community input into this, and having a new council be able to speak quite firmly to the benefits, but the major concerns that we have about this bill.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Freeman?
I just want to ask staff if this actually can achieve what we want it to achieve, or whether the language needs to be modified in any way. Because I would like to advance something today, and I just want to. I know that Councillor Bodley's worked really hard to put this together, and I just wondered whether or not there's any way to strengthen this. Or I do agree with the fact that I don't see how we can wait to do something on this piece, because this government has very strategically placed a critical piece of legislation between council terms. It feels very offside. And I'm quite worried about it. I agree with Councillor Vasic. I do think that I've also had conversations with citizens who don't know how to affect change on this, because it's all moving so quickly. And if we hearken back to our time in council, the issues that people have much concern over do relate to land use compatibility and infill development, and how properties can coexist, how uses can complement one another. And as a city, we've worked really hard. We have a height and density plan. We have approved all kinds of development that has yet to be constructed. And so this bill can undermine the fact that it's not even recognizing the fact that what's been approved hasn't been built. And I have no idea how we can physically find space for 16,000 units in 9 years. And so I just want to know whether this language that we have here is strong enough. I know that it was research based on some briefing notes that we've had from staff, but have staff had a chance to look at this? Is there anything more we need to add?
Well, I do know Mr. Anderson's did have a chance to look at it and provide any commentary. I'll just turn over to Tim to see what to comment on that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jaworski, and to Councillor Freeman. Councillor Bodley did share the language that's before council this afternoon with me. I think it's consistent with what we'll be hearing from many municipalities across Ontario, the need for additional time to kind of do a deeper dive on the significance of Bill 23. Locally, we are unpacking it, as it's noted in the motion here. We are meeting with our peer municipalities across the region, and our intent is to administratively submit those comments by the provincial deadline of November 24th. But there may too also be an opportunity for the new council to kind of reflect on our comments in December when they're up and running. And if we see an opportunity for kind of strengthening that message through the new council, we'll bring that forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've kind of lost track of any other speakers on this call. No other speakers. Yeah, I think that we all value public consultation, and that's a good thing, normally. With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That's unanimously approved. Thank you, Councillor Bodley, for bringing that forward, and thanks to SAC for their Sustainability Advisory Committee. Thanks to the Sustainability Advisory Committee for weighing in so generously directly with you. Any questions? I would find that hard to believe, unless you want an answer within the next less than 2 hours. With that, we move on to new business. And again, I'll turn over to Councillor Bodley about a nearby land donation and some clarity on that. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you through your Mayor Jaworski. This is with respect to a potential land donation from a private resident to a charitable reserve in town here that borders the city of Waterloo. And yeah, you can see the note on screen there, but I guess I'll just reference, in light of what we just talked about, that now more than ever we really understand the importance of environmental protection, preserving our countryside line and protecting our groundwater in the region of Waterloo. And we are greatly appreciative of the work that charitable organizations such as RARE provides, and They specifically protect over 1,200 acres of highly sensitive lands across Waterloo Region and Wellington County. And as I noted, it has come to our attention that there may be an interest from a private landowner in the Wilmot Township along the border of Ward 2 in the city of Waterloo towards making a significant property donation to them. And sort of by way of this letter, we are really just letting the Township of Wilmot know of the excitement and support that the City of Waterloo has for this concept, and just want to highlight to the Township that we welcome the opportunity to work with the current and future land stewards to maintain this area in its current form for generations to come, and that we are more than willing to work with the Township to monitor any challenges that should emerge in light of the donation.
Generations to come, just like Generation Park, a nearby wonderful business park I've just learned about. Any of the neighbors want to second it? Councillor Hanmer? Okay, second by Councillor Hanmer. Any further thoughts on that, Council? Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? That carries. All of us. Councillor Bonnegar, do you want to get in on the voting? Yeah. Okay, in favor. That's what I thought. Yeah, okay. You'll love it. Moving on to item 13B, the don't let the door hit you on the way out section, and but more kindly known as council farewell video and remarks. So with that, we're going to start with the video. Where? Oh, yep, please, sorry.
I just have a question, because I think once we do this, we're all going to be done, but I did have a new business item that I wanted to share.
Go ahead, yes, yes.
I feel like it's better now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to, because I don't think that we've had a meeting since the city's arts and culture team hosted the Creative City Network Conference. So I wanted to just thank staff for hosting it. It's a national conference for arts and culture workers across the country, and it was an excellent event with great speakers and really great community events, and also roasted marshmallows at the Clay and Glass Gallery, which was certainly a highlight. But there was another highlight, which is that the City of Waterloo, for the micro grant project that they had with Pat the Dog, which is open again, and they award $1,000 to an artist to start a project, which is about 1 week worth of work, which has led many artists, or I don't know many, but some artists to then build on that and get other grants. So the City of Waterloo was awarded the Stand Up for Culture Award at by the Creative City Network. And it recognizes a Canadian municipality that actively recognized the value of culture work in their community over the 2020 to 2022 time period by lifting up their local culturally focused department staff and or programs in order to energize their response to and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic on a local level. So big congratulations for hosting the event, for getting this award. And at the event, I was sitting beside somebody from Ottawa who said that the trail network in Waterloo Region is just beyond great. Things all make sense here. They are well connected, and they wish that they had something similar in Ottawa. So I would say that since we're not all walking out on each other, we have a great active transportation network, we are doing really better than Ottawa. I don't know if you heard about their last meeting, but so well done, City of Waterloo.
And I trust they said, and you should do more. Yes. Well, okay, I'll say, and you should do more. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keep going. Keep that accelerator to the floor. With that, I will turn it back over to our video specialist. One of the key things that I wanted to focus on was neighborhoods when I became mayor. Because if you think about it, granted we live in the city of Waterloo or the city of Kitchener or the city of Cambridge or the townships, but the reality is you generally move there because of the schools and the nice parks and the grocery stores and that. You really care about your neighborhood. Your neighborhood is what makes it special. And what we learned during COVID-19, it's your neighbor that makes things very special. And that's why we've been investing in neighborhood grants, in street events for enabling people to do that, safer streets policies and signs, just to make sure that you can enjoy your neighborhood, your street, and I think that's what makes Waterloo and communities around us special, that we all really care about that. When I think about our Uptown Square, it's a vessel to be filled with activities, and it could be anything, but one that really strikes me from this past year was the salsa dancing, and going past the square and seeing hundreds of people doing salsa dancing in Waterloo. It's something that just, it doesn't seem to make sense, but boy, were people having fun.
It's been incredible. We're seeing sometimes up to 200 people join, which is amazing. Yeah, and I love too to get the feedback. So there are some people who are newcomers to Canada, and this is how they're meeting their friends here, which I really love, or reconnecting with old connections. So yeah, it's been awesome.
You know, one of the things that I'm proud of the team here at the City of Waterloo is we challenge them to say, what can we do to support our local economic recovery? And they came up with a program, SOLER, Support Our Local Economic Recovery.
Morty's Pub has always had a great relationship with the city, and a lot of people reached out to us and said, hey, this is coming down the pipeline, solar, here's what you need to do. All right, it was a fairly simple process. We got it done quickly, and well, realistically, within 36 hours, we built a 2,400 square foot patio. It was wonderful to see all the help and to see the wide open arms and people just willing to do whatever it takes. And to remember that at the end of the day, we're all neighbors. And I get choked up on it, but I'm just so happy that we were able to come together and we're able to continue and see how we're gonna grow and become stronger as a community. And I really think that's gonna happen. It just takes work, and it just takes kindness, and it takes effort, but we'll definitely get there, and we'll keep advancing. So yeah, you can tell it's true and dear. So yeah, I just wanna thank everyone. And that's it. I need a Kleenex. Who's cutting onions?
When we look at the environment, we have to think of all aspects of the environment. Often we think of climate change, but we also have to think about water and water usage. We have to think about the pollinators in our plants, because without the pollinators, we don't have the 100-mile diet, the food coming from the local areas. And I think when Waterloo had the opportunity to become a bee city and commit to that and commit to new horticultural methods that are better for our bees and all the other pollinators, that was something that we and other local municipalities jumped on right away.
Joining the Pollinator Working Group was sort of my first foray into joining a community initiative, which was wonderful. I've learned how to get around the town. I now know where some of the parks are. I've been able to meet some wonderful people and really sort of way of meaningfully giving back and joining the community that we moved to. So this is actually a bit of an experiment, I think. This is sort of a meadow pasture area, and we're trying to reclaim some of that land, and we've kind of got 3 separate little plots where we've starting to try to introduce native species. So we have to come out and we prepared the plots. I wasn't part of the group then, but they prepared the plots with cardboard and lots of mulch, and then planted some native plants. And then this spring we were out here weeding, and this fall we'll actually be putting in more native plant plugs.
Hi, good morning. I'm RC Kenny, and I'm the bicycle mayor of Waterloo. Overall priority of a bike mayor is really to engage with my community and be able to then see, hey, this will be a good priority for my community. It's really rewarding seeing the city improve their infrastructure. As a result, seeing more people biking, seeing more people walking. Because I realized when you have an infrastructure, like here it's a perfect example because it's a park. There are no cars, and you immediately notice you just hear the people, you just hear the kids. You just hear, it's a bit quiet now, but usually there are birds literally singing. So having that infrastructure, having that bike infrastructure, but also pedestrian, I would say, makes our city more quiet.
You know, I really am so proud of the community that we have here, and really that was part of it, running for mayor. I was just so excited that we were going to be doing something special in this community, something that is my adopted hometown. I came here to go to school at the University of Waterloo and never left. And it's just been such a special place for my family, my friends, because it's everybody's friendly, and that's really the key to entrepreneurship here, is everybody gets to know everybody, and we can do business together and create a thriving, resilient community. Awesome. Thank you, team. And it's amazing how many people you run into over the years, over the weeks since then. Jen and I were playing pickleball, and staff convinced us to go in a pickleball tournament. And lo and behold, we're playing Emily, the salsa. Well, she beat us. Emily and Chris, they beat us. So anyway, I'm not so fond of Emily anymore. But anyway, seemed like a nice girl till then. What we're going to do now is do a round table and maybe share some reflections on the council term or service. But I'm going to go with those who are going to be here for the next 4 years. And so I'll just look to see if there's anybody who wants to volunteer to go. Councillor Vasic, you want to go? Okay, Councillor Vasic, please go ahead. Councillor Hanmer's looking excited too.
Okay, I wrote a little something. Okay, so I've been having a hard time figuring out what it is I want to say in my allotted time. Nothing feels quite right. I want to recap all of what we've accomplished. I'm not going to look at you because I'll cry. I want to recap all of what we've accomplished together, from the small to the very big. We have so much to be proud of. I also feel compelled to keep it to a more brief and heartfelt thank you for the opportunity to be amongst a group of people who so clearly care and who are, each one, so smart in different and complementary ways. Neither a comprehensive overview of the last 4 years or a concise thanks felt quite right either. So I thought maybe the elusive sentiment I've been searching for is a discomfort with change. That felt closer. Then, this morning, I was reading a New to Me newsletter. While the author was speaking about her unique situation, her words struck a chord with me too, as we embark on this change. She wrote, "We're doing the impossible work of looking back and piecing together what happened, while also having to be present, while also setting our gaze on a hopeful new path. And so it is all of it, grief, gratitude, hope, and excitement, that is making it almost impossible to find the words I want to say because I am stuck in what came before and very keen to get going with what's next. I both don't want this council term to end, and I can't wait for it to be over so we can get on with all that is ahead of us as individuals and a city. And this is where you might see the personal growth that has been born for me this council term. I'm going to do my best by, I'm going to editing. I'm going to end by resting where I feel least comfortable, right in the middle, present and content.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Vasic. We can break the rules. Councillor Hammer, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much. One thing that my family does, it's a bit of a tradition or a history, when something comes to an end, or if we're celebrating an anniversary, or if we're celebrating a birthday, is talk about the rose, the thorn, and the rosebud. So the rose is something that you're really proud of. The thorn is something that's probably been sticking in your side, and the rosebud is something that you're looking forward to. So when I reflect on the past 4 years, Councillor Vasic started talking about some of the accomplishments, but what came into my mind all the way through is the great teamwork and our willingness to challenge each other and to challenge staff to make sure that we are moving the city of Waterloo forward. So that was my rose, to be most proud of how we worked together. We didn't always agree. We kept, though, the citizens of Waterloo and what was best for the city first and foremost. The thorn, I think we all can agree, is having to pivot, and I'm going to lose that word for sure in my vocabulary, through COVID-19, and probably not being able to move things forward as fast as we might have liked to originally. However, as we saw today, we did accomplish a lot together. And then my rosebud is that as a council, as a group of friends, as a group of colleagues, we've been able to create a very solid foundation and have put a high bar for the council that will come after us. And I, like Councillor Vasic, am really looking forward to keeping what we've started and moving forward. A heartfelt thank you to Mayor Jaworski, Councillor Bonagor, Councillor Henry, and Councillor Veith for all that you have done in guiding us to get to this point. Thank you.
Okay, as I'll look to the left here, I see Councillor Bodley's hand shoot right up. It's not bylaws yet, but you can go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. As a first-time councillor coming into this position, not knowing what I've gotten myself into, I really don't think I could have asked for a better group of council colleagues. You know, I am immensely proud of the accomplishments of our council over the past 4 years in some incredibly challenging times, and I am excited for the upcoming term of council and really looking forward to continuing to work with Councillors Freeman and Hanmer and Vasic to make the city of Waterloo a great place to live. And the mentorship and friendship from Councillor Beith, Henry, and Bonagor has just been incredible. Councillor Beith's support on signed variants and at Economic Development Committee, and the many conversations we had over a few drinks have been awesome. Councillor Henry has really helped me navigate a number of challenging issues, including some of the ones we talked about today. And those conversations, his expertise and knowledge have simply been invaluable to me. And the honest, open, and fulsome conversations that Councillor Bonagor and I have had on climate issues in particular, I will always cherish. And I thank all of them for their service and wish them all the best of luck. Mayor Jaworski has been an incredible leader, and when you meet him, you immediately sense how passionate he is about the city of Waterloo. He empowers his people to get things done, and the trust that he showed me, a nobody who had no idea what they were doing when I came into this role, in handling some very challenging issues in Ward 2. The fact that he even showed trust in me in those was just so incredibly appreciated. Dave has been a tireless advocate for the city of Waterloo, and I'm sure that he will continue to be. And I will definitely miss him gently picking on me from the chair over the next 4 years. Although, as Councillor Hammer said, although we have not always agreed on every issue, we have always been respectful. And I think this comes from knowing that although we may have disagreed on tactics, I never once wavered in my belief that each of my colleagues around the horseshoe here had the best interests of the city in mind. And each and every one of you have made me a better person and I hope a better leader. And the best I can promise is to do my best to carry on that tradition with the new council. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Freeman. Thank you, Councillor Bodley.
I am absolutely not as organized in terms of my thoughts today as all of you are, so bravo. 16 years, Angela. 4, Tennille. 12, Jeff. 8, Dave. That's 40 years of service that you have all given to the citizens of Waterloo. You know, part-time, 24/7. And that's a lot. Like, you can't backfill that. That's a lot of years of service. And this past term of council has been unlike any that has happened in the past, or any hopefully that will come again. And being able to take time today to celebrate the achievements, and those aren't ours alone. I mean, my goodness, one of the very best things that we ever did as a city, staff and council, was to build an incredibly strong 3-year budget and stay the course. A lot of people pushed us to not stay the course. And because we did, look what we have. We've got a boardwalk around Waterloo Park that wasn't mentioned yet today. We have the library, which will fundamentally change lives for people in Waterloo and visitors who come and use Rim Park. The Adult Recreation Center will uplift people in times in their lives when sometimes life is difficult. And we have fundamentally changed our way of thinking as it relates to investment in our assets and how we do that through a climate lens. And those are huge. If we did nothing else in 4 years, and yet we did do other things in 4 years, but if we did nothing else in 4 years, those would have been wonderful accomplishments. The best thing I like about you, Dave, is you're a cheerleader for everyone. And you don't agree with all the emails that you get. You have a willingness to say, you know what, I disagree with what you're saying here, and you've, in my opinion, you've always shown great support to a council position or a staff position as it relates to some of the adventurous emails that we receive. Jeff, I've really always appreciated learning new words. It's substantially improved my vocabulary in the last 12 years. And but I really do appreciate your thoughtfulness and the research that you put into motions, and the work you've done as finance chair over 8 years is huge. Thank you for that. You also helped navigate a hydro transfer. And I don't think that can go unsaid either for you and Dave and the work that you've done on the hydro board over this term. And Tennille, you have been a passionate warrior for the Uptown, and it's a very busy ward. And with our height and density plan, we have really moved a lot of that work into the Uptown. And I appreciate that we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I do believe that we have managed to agree to disagree and still be friends. And so I appreciate that. And I can't really talk about Ange. Because you're just family. I don't do change great. And Ange and I walked in this room together, but we're not walking out together. That's hard for me. But thank God you have lots of wine at your house. I look forward to continuing our friendship through our family connections. You've done great work, Ange. And you've got the chloride out of the water. And you've really worked hard on a lot of environmental issues, and just more broadly had a willingness to be a lone voice on some things like backyard fires and traffic speeds, and sometimes it's hard to be a lone voice. So thank you for that. And with that, I too look forward to the next term of council. We have some big shoes to fill. And I am so thankful that what's transitioning here is council and not staff. I appreciate that, Olga, you're retiring. And I've worked with you for 16 years too. And Christine Kaler. And we've said goodbye to a few other staff in the last 4 years. Cam most notably comes to mind for me. And I wish you great success in your retirement, Olga. I don't actually think that people retire well. I expect that you'll keep very busy. But I am very thankful, Tim, that your staff team is growing, but the knowledge transfer is solid. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to the first four, and now to the next four who have nothing to lose and can say anything they want. I looked right earlier, so this time I'll look left. Is there anybody on the left side who would like to kick this off? Councillor Bonigar.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Jaworski. Dan, for someone who said they didn't prepare remarks, you were admirable as always. I'm a writer. I did prepare remarks. What an honour it has been to sit here with you on this council. We just didn't get to sit here enough. Over the past 4 years, we have, all of us, leaned into the complexity of this city. And we did it with enthusiasm, we did it with curiosity, with humour and thoughtfulness. But most of all, we did it with ambition. Not for ourselves, but for the city. We didn't always agree, and I noticed that pretty much we're all calling that out. We didn't always agree on particular steps, but the goal was never in doubt: to create a more sustainable city, a more equitable city. And in some of the hardest years in recent memory, we have not only put that vision in place, we have built the scaffolding to make it real. It's been humbling and exciting to be part of it. And I hope we all leave here today incredibly proud of what we have achieved together. To city staff, both those assembled and those who can't squish into this room, you have worked so diligently to bring council's vision to life, and I offer you my deepest thanks. I won't call out teams or names. There are far too many of you to list, but you are a dedicated and talented bunch. Thank you for bringing me into your work and for teaching me so much. Sorry that 4 years was such a bad ROI for you. But your kindness and your generosity have both been limitless. So thank you. To the folks of Ward 7, you rock. You vote very well, just kidding. You are smart, thoughtful, creative, and critical in the best ways. And it's been an absolute honour to represent you. And ultimately, to my family, whom I adore, but they can't be here today because there's apparently life outside this chamber. Who knew? I really want to thank them. It's really hard to have a mummy who goes to so many meetings and who is always stopping to chat with people no matter where we go. It's hard if your wife does that too, to be fair. But this dream of mine sat firmly on the bedrock of their love. And I'm going to talk to the camera up there because they'll probably watch this later. I could not have done this without you. And my service to the city is also yours. So thank you. And finally, I've learned a lot these past 4 years, but perhaps the greatest lesson has been this. Leadership is not a role. It's a practice, one that requires patience, empathy, vision, and integrity. It requires you not just to speak, but to know when to be silent so that others may speak. It calls on all of your humanity and then asks you to set yourself aside. It is hard and it is so worth it. So as I pass the baton today, I want people to remember you can't do it all, but you can do a lot. So make it fun and make it count. Thank you.
Okay, looking to my right. Who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors? Okay, you go ahead, Angela.
Thank you. Jeff was pointing at me. So. Well, a few hundred words written down. It's truly been an honor and a pleasure to serve as the City Councillor for Ward 3 and indeed all the residents of the City of Waterloo for the past 4 terms. I'm proud of the policies, and I won't get through this, that, that have been put in place in the City of Waterloo during my tenure. I feel I've contributed to positive change in a city that I love, where my husband and I raised our 4 children. Over the past 16 years, Ward 3 has experienced immense positive change. The Northfield Ion Station and the new development in the Weber Northfield area have made our neighborhood more accessible, increased amenities and housing options, not to mention tons of job opportunities. The new Action Sports Park at Albert McCormick Center supports youth and family from not just the neighborhood, but from all over. I'm happy that the backyard hen bylaw finally passed. I was working on that since I started this, which has allowed families and children to learn about food and sustainability. Trail connectivity and surface upgrades were improved in Ward 3, including the Trans-Canada Trail connection to Benjamin Park, the Market Trail, including the trail along Parkside Drive, all to make it easier for local residents and the broader community to get around in the city and beyond. The installation of traffic calming measures in conservation meadows, 40-kilometer speed limits in school zones so children are able to get to school safely. The Heasley Park Playground, the Optimus Playground, the Canewood Park Playgrounds have all been updated over the past few years. These are all very busy amenities for the families in Ward 3. Some highlights citywide for me over the past 16 years include being part of the City of Waterloo's 150th birthday celebration team in 2007, being a founding member of the Ice Dogs Festival, which is now a very popular celebration of winter called Waterloo, working with a grassroots team of citizens to help make the drinking water in Waterloo safe to drink, being on a council that has supported age-friendly and bicycle-friendly policies and a plan for environmental sustainability and climate action. We are a B city, and Councillor Freeman mentioned the 3-year budget. Since 2007, we have food trucks, cannabis stores, free splash pads, and a new branch library, a brand new Waterloo Recreation Center, and much more. Over the years, I've cut many ribbons and attended openings of new businesses throughout the city. Being invited to so many events, fundraisers, and dinners has offered me a unique opportunity to meet the folks in our community that are doing great work that make our neighborhoods healthier. What I value most about my tenure as City Councillor are the people I've met along the way. Thank you to the residents of Ward 3 for trusting me to work for you and be your voice in council chambers. I'm grateful for the friendships I've forged and the collaboration and support of so many people and city staff who've helped make incredible projects and policies come to life. I'll always hold a special place in my heart for the Sunnydale community and the programs offered by Adventure for Change. I'm excited for what's to come in Ward 3 at the corner of High Point and Northfield Drive, not just a place of worship, but a community hub and gathering space for neighborhood and city programming. I long for the day that Albert McCormick Community Center becomes a true community hub, art center, and gathering space for residents, not just an arena. The new development on Conservation Drive and Waterton Street will make Ward 3 even more desirable as a place to live and work and play. I look forward to my first ride in the long-awaited elevator at one of my favorite art centers, the Button Factory, something I've lobbied for since before I was on City Council. The Clay and Glass Gallery has come a long way in the last 16 years, winning many awards and becoming a beehive of activity and culture. Please check it out. I am honored to have served on the board of directors at the Clay and Glass Gallery for the past 2 terms. I have to get this in here. I am confident that the new City Council will soon put an end to the curbside leaf collection. A sincere thank you to my current and past City Council colleagues, 2 special mayors, and the City of Waterloo staff who work so hard for the citizens of Waterloo. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to work with each one of you. What's next for me? I'm going to focus on building my small business, your KW Host, by continuing to share the incredible culture, environment, and amenities of the region of Waterloo with visitors. Many of you know that I have a new gig that I love as a chauffeur with Brentwood Livery. I also plan to continue my volunteer commitments, but most of all, I will spend as much time as possible with my team of 8 adorable grandchildren. Before I end, I have to thank my family and my biggest supporter, who's here, and fan, John, over the years. He's always been there to discuss and argue city issues, of which many times we would disagree, but that's okay. So all the best and congratulations to the Mayor-elect McCabe and the upcoming council. And again, thank you so much. It has been an honor.
Thank you. When you said 2 special mayors, I had to do a quick count. How many were there under your tenure? I was like, there might have been 3. I might not have been one of them. I was concerned. Over to you, Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council for this. Diane, well, it's normally anathema for me to write remarks down. That was, I think, the first word that you had to look up from around the chambers. I've written this one down. Olga, I'm not sure if you and Susan would have remembered my first remarks around this table in the inaugural. I didn't write them down. And so I thank both of you for painstakingly listening to the recording so that it could actually go into the minutes. This time I've written it down. So yeah, that's something that my wife told me that I needed to do for our wedding, that I actually needed to write things down if I wanted to, I don't know, still be married at the end of it. I'm not sure how that works. So here it goes. So as I was talking with potential candidates this year, it had me thinking back 12 years to that first campaign. In a highly competitive race, I spent a lot of time thinking about policy. Not just what I would say to voters, but how I would say it. The words we use shape how we understand the problems we face and how we decide to address them. They're important. Words matter. I made 2 decisions then that I believe I've held fast to over the 12 years that I've spent around this table. First was to do politics in paragraphs and not sound bites, because people deserve to know the what and the why on the complicated and challenging decisions that we make. We owe them that. And second, to never use the word taxpayer when describing either the members of the public or the revenue we collect. Governments collect public money for a public purpose. We are not a collection of walking wallets shopping for services. We pool our resources together to do things that we can't do alone. We should always debate the what, the how, and for whom we do this. But it is on the basis of our collective humanity and our obligations to each other, not the size of the checks we write, that should always be at the forefront of our policy debates. I also spent some time thinking about the issues that I'd ran into when I showed up at this table 12 years ago. In the ward and in Northdale, we had a community that had lost faith and trust in City Hall, screaming from the rafters for change. We had broken and generally unenforceable rental housing regulations that needed addressing. We were at the midpoint of a very long process of refurbishing Clare Lake that didn't involve the living rooms of some of the neighbors. And many homes associations were struggling about trying to figure out their future as their covenants expired and their treasured pools and tennis courts were on the block. Across the city, we had what I could only really describe as an unstrategic plan, which was a laundry list of projects already in the capital budget, so that everybody was included, but that nothing was strategic. We had a budget that was focused on a single number rather than on the values expressed in the needs. Staff worked hard, but we focused on a number and not the values that were there. We had an infrastructure gap, both in the money we were allocating to it and our understanding of what it was, how to tackle it, where to begin. We had the jewel of the city, Waterloo Park, was losing its shine, and Silver Lake was full of. We had parks that were going increasingly unfunded and underfunded year over year. The situation was getting worse and not better. We had a car-focused transportation plan. And we had delayed and false starts on energy efficiency projects, and we were severely understaffed in a sustainability team we could never seem to fund. We had no greenhouse gas baseline. We had no targets. We had staff that were trying, but we weren't there. And now, where have we come? What have we been able to do here? In the ward where I spent time right away having to work on Northdale, we created a plan with the community, by the community, and it's worked for the community. It rebuilt trust. Folks that were in the front pages of the newspapers were knocking on doors with me 4 years later because we listened, we worked hard, and look what we've delivered in terms of a neighborhood that is truly a vibrant and diverse hub. The first Wooner, certainly here and perhaps in the province and the country, and a broader plan around welcoming the world into our post-secondary institutions and rediversifying the population in Northdale. There are more than 200 kids in Northdale today, thanks to the last census. We are turning the corner, and we have done it well. We fixed our rental housing regulations. We have a licensing regime that generally works and staffing structure that can focus on the problems and go after them. The number of neighborhood meetings I had in living rooms complaining about the challenges of living next to rental housing, I was doing them very frequently in my first few years on council, but I hear very rarely now about some of the few persistent challenges that we do have in some of those locations. We dredged Clare Lake. It's done. It actually was done. I mean, except for that damn liner that we couldn't get done because MNR just couldn't actually read the emails we were sending to them. And we've got a sustainable plan to manage homes associations where people want that additional support to be facilitated by the city. We have sustainability not just in many of those in the ward, but now in Ward 1 as well. And across the city, we developed the first strategic plan of this council, and it served us well as we pivoted and pivoted and pivoted. And it was a guiding post, I think, for rallying actions in a time of change. We had a budget process that changed to focus on the needs of our community, that allowed council to be in the driver's seat for where we should prioritize new and different investments, and to make the choices and to wear the results, as we should, as leaders representing our community. We know what our infrastructure gap is. We have an award-winning asset management system and plan integrating those cross assets. We are leaders, not just in the province, but in the country on dealing with our infrastructure, and this council funded the beginnings of what we need to be able to close that gap. And we're transparent about how we're doing that. Waterloo Park, Silver Lake looks great, and we'll soon be able to enjoy it on both sides thanks to those long investments that we've made. A substantial share came from stormwater and that utility to be able to manage that, which was a huge change for this council. The last council turned around how we were dealing with parks and was able to actually invest in their maintenance and upkeep, and we have expanded and served so many new expansions of parks where our city is growing in Uptown, and I hope next year to enjoy the ones in Northdale and in so many upgrades across the city that people spent time the last few years outdoors enjoying. And in that first year, we passed, I think, Ontario's first complete streets-focused transportation master plan in 2011. And now 2.0 got through this council to really be able to drive the change that we need on rebalancing our transportation network and grid to make it safe, to make it efficient, and to make it climate friendly. And we've laid the scaffolding for making that happen. And we saw presentations today on the leaps and bounds work we've done on driving climate change action. We have a baseline, we have targets, we've exceeded those targets, we've set new targets, and I have no doubt that the next council will support staff in funding our achievement of those faster than we might well have hoped, because that has been the path we've taken so far. So I look back on that, and I say it's been, an honor and a privilege to serve with these last 12 years with collegial, forward-thinking councils that were certainly more collegial and more agreeable, even when we disagreed, than perhaps any other council in the province through these last 3 cycles. Highly professional and dedicated staff that know their stuff and bring us, in all its complexity, what we need to be able to move the city forward. And a caring and thoughtful publics across the city of all the different identities, dimensions, and views that have engaged us over the years to make what we've done possible. And like you, Councillor Bonagor, I say I can't imagine, and you, Councillor Veith, I can't imagine having been here and done what I've done, the number of meetings, the number of conversations, the amount of work, without my family behind me, my growing, ebullient family to be able to get through all of this and to have those conversations you need to have at the end of the long day to be able to do this. One thing I learned very quickly is that if you are going to embark on a political life, you should never tell your friends you're running before your spouse. That one I will never live down, so I thought I'd put on the record. But Kate has been with me every step of the way, and now we have an increasing number of steps from Finn, who I would say walks behind us in our footsteps, but we cannot control that level of enthusiasm. It is wherever the most interesting thing in the city is. And many of those most interesting things have been things that councils have built while I've been here. And for that, I leave with a grateful heart and a firm belief that the best is yet to come.
Well, clerk's going to have to listen to this or watch it later because I don't have anything prepared. But what I can tell you, though, is I'm so used to going to the event. I go last. I'll back clean up. That's fine by me. But one thing I will say, Councillor Henry, there's a corollary to that one. Never let your wife overhear you that you're quitting at Sobeys parking lot to your friend and finding out about it that way. So that was another one. There's another little lesson there. It has been a blast here. So much fun. Every day is fun. I see, I can just go around and tell the stories. Like this morning, I was in a fire truck parade. Like, how cool is that, right? That is fun, and thank you to Waterloo Fire Rescue for putting that together. For Jan and I to come here on my final day, that was just a wonderful, wonderful, fun opportunity. And if I look back, I think that's really there's some days that we know that weren't particularly fun, but they were certainly unusual and interesting. And we got through them that way. But, I think that's really been the hallmark of this group. The best council in Canada, the best city team in Canada, of working through leadership and teamwork. And my favorite one, no surprises, right? No surprises. We try to make sure everybody's in the know, everybody can contribute, everybody's up to speed, whether they're for it or against it. People can have a great conversation, and at the end of it, we all make great decisions because we're all well informed. And I think that's really been the hallmark of this council. Brave is another one I would use too. Councillor Freeman, I think, mentioned the 3-year budget, or certainly mentioned a few times. But being brave is key, and that I think is a message to the next council. You have to come in here and be brave and continue to keep your foot on the accelerator, as we did during the pandemic. That was something that was so important. And even just looking around the room here, and I can see, sort of a proxy for the 147,000 people in the city of Waterloo. And, thank you to our first time around, local media were here. We used to have 4 here all the time. Now, through the thick and the thin of it, we still have Jeff here representing local media, because that's where people are going to get their information. When people aren't well informed, well consulted, they feel as if they aren't getting what they need out of the city council or whatever organization. And we have Citizen Glenn here representing 147,000 people, and probably about 3,000 or 4,000 people watching on YouTube now, because it's much more convenient. But I think that's who we're really doing it for. I really miss this room, not so much this room that needs redecorating, but this type of room, and continue to look around of our team in our office: Linda, Ileana, Adam, and of course Nicole, who will leave with me today in another hour as our time is up here. So much thank you for helping our jobs go smoothly. And with that, I'd like to just thank them. And then, of course, a mayor's best friend is the clerk. And thank you very much to all the team of the clerks, Julie and Olga Past, and because it really helps. We do the business of council through the office of the clerk. And I really think that's the council office and the office of the clerk is what really sets the stage for moving things ahead. And keeping track of things and making sure everything goes as well as it can. I'll leave it at that. As well as it can. We try to make sure it goes as well as it can, as efficiently as possible. To the team of leaders around here, through Tim, what a wonderful group that we have here. So in tune with our needs. I'm really glad about that. What's that? Do not disturb act that they put in. What's it called? The bill, right to disconnect, where we're taking a better responsibility for each other by trying to do things ahead of time, to leave Saturdays and Sundays free, because I know full well if we email on a Saturday, an hour later we're going to get a response. And I don't think it's because of our position. I think it's that collegiality and that expectation that we do things the Waterloo way, and let's get it fixed, let's get it done now. But there are a number of things that can wait till Monday. And that's what we have been trying to do, endeavoring to do. And to the teams who had to make it through COVID. Apparently we're not yet there, but close enough for my liking. And I think that we really did a great job, either through financing or through just planning everything. I still remember when we said, at the start of 2020, and Tim and I were chatting and said, what should we do about the horticulture? Should we save that 100,000 or whatever? And I said, they're going to be going through hell. We don't want the place to look like hell. And so let's keep on going. And you know what? The only people who really came in the building during that time were to thank us for the flowers that looked so great in our urban environment. And that's a testament to, these are just a few examples. The one thing I think that's tough on all of us is that we do 1,000 things. People ask what a mayor does. It's everything you see out your window or your windshield. I'll have to change that. It's everything you see out your window or over your handlebars. And because, we can do something in that regard on everything. And sometimes I feel like we do have 1,000 things going on at once. Well, we probably do have 1,000 things going on at once. And but now's the time to focus, to ability for some of us to say, I'm going to do a handful of things. I'm going to do them a bit better, see our family a bit more, and that's a special part of it. Is our family represented by those who could make it here today, those also watching on YouTube, who made it possible for us to contribute to what I call the ultimate community job, which is being here at the council table. And it's just exciting all the time for what we're able to do, for our executive officers represented by 2 here today, Sandy and Brad, really helped out in forming the government relations practice and doing all the good stewardship things for on behalf of Tim, on behalf of council, really helped out. Love that that position that we certainly brought back, and I just thank you. You know, I think maybe I'll end now. I'm going to end with something controversial. I won't miss any of you. And the reason why I say that is because I've also told the mayor-elect that I like going for walks, and I'll probably come to City Hall because now I can be friends with these people who are previously close work colleagues, but still not ability to have friends. So I do plan on being around, and so I won't miss any of you because I'll see you regularly. And I will look forward to that, and not talking shop. We can talk about something else. Like pickleball. That we can talk about, right, Olga? Pickleball. And yeah, with that, I'll close. But what a wonderful team we have here at the City of Waterloo, and I know it will continue under the new council starting tomorrow morning. So thank you. Well, looky that, Councillor Bodley. Looky what time it is of the day. It's the enactment of bylaws, and it's a bonus day because we have four of them to move. So we have some bylaws here. Rook's just pulling them up. Moved by Councillor Bodley, seconded by Councillor Hanmer. All those in favor? And now, anybody special want to do an adjournment? Motion to adjourn? I'm sitting in the chair. You want to change places? Oh yeah, you chair. It's your acting mayor. Come on in. Oh, but I have to do this last time. So, moved by Councillor Heath. Sure. It's a deal. Moved seconded by Councillor Councillor Bonagor. All those in favor? We're done. That's all, folks.